Okay, so let me go ahead and introduce these gentlemen here that you see on your screen. The gentleman on your left there in the Marmont sweatshirt, that's Mr. Ronald Sundberg. He is a RCAC staff person. He joined RCAC in 2008. He's a tribal circuit rider that serves Northern California and Nevada. And Mr. Sundberg builds tribal capacity by providing hands-on technical assistance and training to water and wastewater operators and utility administrators. He has more than 15 years of experience working with tribal and non-tribal drinking water and wastewater programs. And prior to joining RCAC, Mr. Sundberg was a civil engineer technician for the Indian Health Service, where he designed individual water and wastewater systems, assisted civil engineers, and oversaw the completion of numerous projects. He was an environmental technician for the Trinidad Rancheria and operated and maintained a wastewater treatment plant in addition to administering several grant programs. Mr. Sundberg is an enrolled member of the Trinidad Rancheria, and he is in room with us to answer questions after the video. And the gentleman on your right is Mr. Billy Fender Jr. He is a Tolowa Dee-ni Nation tribal member who's been working with this tribe for over 20 plus years. Mr. Fender started in the casino as a cafe supervisor and worked in that position all the way up to shift manager. Then he hopped over to tribal government for the last 13 years in the Public Works and Facilities Department. He is dual certified level 2 in drinking water and wastewater certifications and has 7 years experience in the field. And in his time off, he has 3 beautiful grandchildren that he raises with his 2 daughters and enjoys playing with this family dog. So welcome both of you. And I'm gonna go ahead and press play on the video.
All right. My name is Ron Sundberg. I work with Rural Community Assistance Corporation, and today we're here at the Tolowa Dee-ni Nation in Smith River, California. We're going to provide a wastewater tour, virtual wastewater tour of their MBR membrane bioreactor wastewater treatment plant. I'm here today with Bill Fender. Bill is the lead operator. He's been the lead operator for what, 6-7 years now?
7 years.
7 years?
Right.
So he's got good knowledge of the system. We're going to go through each phase of this system, each process for you guys, and show you kind of how the system operates. Bill, you want to talk real quick about the service connections here and the amount of flow coming into the system?
Sure, Ron. Hi, my name is Billy. We have about 86 residential homes that are connected to. We have 5 commercial connections we have. We have to do about a flow of about 36,000 a day.
36,000 inflow coming into the system?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we will start out at the headworks and take you through the headworks to the activated sludge basins, all the way through the membrane bioreactors and to the disposal fields. Okay, we are now at the headworks of the system. So everything from the collection system, all the community, all the wastewater starts out here. This is called a drum screen. It's made from EnviroCare, and we pulled it out of the flow so you can see kind of what's going on. What this is doing is it's removing all of the grit, bigger materials, organics, that type of stuff, and it goes through a corkscrew in through here, and then into a garbage can where we take it to the landfill. Everything else, all the organic material, moves through this system into what's called an equalization basin. Billy, let's talk about the smells. I'm in here right now. There's raw sewage down here. There's definitely an odor in here.
Right. For being raw sewage and being inside this facility, this building, it isn't bad out of the building. You get in, you can smell because it is raw coming through the lift stations and whatnot. But anything that gets out of this building it does not permeate out. As long as it's in here, it's pretty sealed.
In fact, behind us about 50 feet is a gas station.
Right.
And do you ever get Any complaints from customers or anything about wastewater odors?
Yeah, no, Ron, no, we don't get any complaints. We also have a residence that lives right on the east side of us that has never complained about the smell or any kind of issue.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you. The next process we'll go over is the equalization basin. All right, we are on top of the activated sludge basins right now. Look behind us, that's the headworks that we were just at. In between the headworks and the activated sludge basin, we have an equalization basin that's 25,000 gallons that further removes fats, oils, and grease, as well as sellable solids and anything that's floating. It'll leave that in the tank there. The effluent from that tank comes into our activated sludge basins, where we have an anoxic zone and then an aerated zone. This is where a lot of the treatment is occurring. We're removing BOD, we're removing nitrates here. You see that it's definitely sludge. If this is treated right, if it's treated correctly, you're not going to get any smells out of this. Billy, what would you say the smell resembles out of these basins?
Doesn't smell anything like the sewer. To me, it smells like more earthy. Dirt smell. That earthy dirt smell smells more inside of where the MBR system is. So out here, it's nice. It doesn't have any kind of unpleasant smell at all.
Yeah, we put covers on the basins. These were open basins at one time, but we have trees and everything around us, and we're getting leaves and pine needles, as well as a lot of rain that we didn't want into these basins, so we covered them, which really helped out. It doesn't really do anything for odor control, because we don't really need odor control out here. As long as we're taking care of the activated sludge, doing the correct removals and wasting and stuff, then it really just is a very non-offensive odor, more like an earthy dirt smell. Right. Okay, so we've gone through the whole headworks. We've showed you the equalization basin. We've been to the activated sludge basins. Now we're at the microfiltration system, the actual meat of the whole system here. This is we utilize the Z 500 microfiltration MBR system, and it is it's what 0.04 microns holes that it's being drawn through. Once the filtration has occurred, it's pretty much treated effluent that we can use for watering plants, irrigation, any type of reuse that we want. It's tertiary treated water. Billy, as far as operation of this thing goes, what do you do?
It's pretty easily plug and play. We incorporate 2 trains. Each train has its own cassettes. We either run one or the other redundant system, but it produces every 15 minutes, and then it back pulses for 45 seconds after that. If it needs to stay on, it will stay on. If not, it will shut down. Maybe the other one will come on. But the majority of the time, there's always one running at all times. It runs about 30 GPM a minute. It is fairly easily operational. Not much O&M on the system.
How often do you have to pull the membranes out of the cassettes and actually do
The manufacturer says every year.
Okay.
Once a year, pull them out, check all the strands. If there's any broken strands, you would separate the broken strand, inject some silicone in it, tie it off, and then off you go. It's pretty easily.
Okay. Any smells in here that are offensive to anyone?
No offensive at all. It's more like the dark pleasant smell. It doesn't ever have any bad odors at all.
Noise, any noise issues with pumps running, and I know you have some blowers in here.
Right.
Any issues with noise or noise complaints from neighbors?
No, we haven't had any noise complaints. Even in here, it's off right now. When it's on, it's about 70 decibels, if that. So it's not offensive to work around. Our on-site generator is one that gets the most noise from, but we don't have any complaints about it. But that's the loudest thing we have in here. These blowers aren't very loud.
Okay. Excellent. Great, thank you. All right, so we've been through the headworks of the system. We've been through the equalization basin.
Right.
We've shown the activated sludge process,
Yes.
the microfiltration process. Now we're inside the operations room, the lab operations room for the system. You see behind us, we have their SCADA system where they're able to basically operate the system remotely. You can turn pumps on and off, open and close valves,
Right.
pretty much do everything.
Yeah, if
from
we have an
there.
alarm call out, they would call us out, and we can check SCADA on our phone or computer at any other facility we have, or even at home on the weekends or on call at night. This system is perfect for us. It works out greatly.
As far as effluent results, you do have a lab, you do some testing. What are your mixed liquor suspended solids?
Sure.
Your BOD levels in your effluent as well as your nitrates.
Okay, well, nitrates, they don't ever go over 5 milligrams per liter. Our MLSS is under 2 milligrams per liter. And our BOD is at 2.7.
0.7 milligrams per liter.
Yes.
That's some pretty high quality effluent that you guys are producing.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a nice plant. I like this plant.
Okay.
It's the only plant I've been at, but it's nice.
All right, we're now at the dewatering press for the activated sludge. The activated sludge that's in our activated sludge basins. We have to waste that activated sludge every once in a while so we don't accumulate too much, and that'll throw off our treatment process. So what this is doing is it's taking some of that activated sludge, dewatering it, turning it into these little chips, and then they're able to put it in the landfill.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about this system, why you guys got it, how long it's been operating for.
We've had this for 2 years or so. Before we had this machine, we were calling our local rotor system company that would come out, I would say like between 60 to 90 days, that we would have to have them come and remove some of our activated sludge, which is, majority of it is water. So we would not really get the beneficial removal through that process. So we found this company, it's a corkscrew drive press, that it would come to the top and it just squeezes all the water out of it. The water drops down and goes back over to the equalization basin where it gets back into the aeration system. The removal is about 17%. I mean, it's not bad. This is actual sewage waste. But as you can see, it can hold form. And this is great removal. It keeps us more self-sustained as a company, or as a tribe, to become our own. We don't need to rely on Roto-Rooter or whatnot. We can do our own removal. We take care of our own waste system through the landfill. It's benefited us greatly.
How much did it cost to have the local pumping company come out and pump a load of activated sludge?
It's about $3,000 to $3,500 each time.
Okay. And that was every 90 days, you said?
Yeah, at the most, at the top end, 90 days.
Okay.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
We do about 2,000 gallons a day, roughly. We try to do maybe more sometimes. It depends on the VOD. It depends on all the TSS. You know, it depends how much we have in there, how much we need to remove out.
Okay. Okay, we're here at the disposal fields for the treated effluent. You see, it's a fairly large field. We have a monitoring well right here where we can monitor groundwater levels, water quality coming into the groundwater, that type of stuff. As far as land use goes, what do you guys do out here on top of the leach fields?
We don't do too much with this property. It's mainly for hay and silage. We just hay it cut it every season. A lot of elk come here. Wildlife come through here from the mountain, come down and graze on this, but it's just.
So you do have limited traffic, some heavy equipment coming on
Right.
onto the leach fields, which can be detrimental to leach fields. If you have too much traffic, you'll start compacting the soils and you'll get less percolation. So it sounds like you guys kind of mind that a little bit and
Right.
try to keep as much heavy equipment off of it as possible, but you do hay it once a year.
Yeah, right. We also this is our last station on this property here, and it's about 20 feet down. We check levels each quarter, and that's when we do a lot of our samples as well. So we monitor that level each time. And if I remember right, it was about 25 feet down last quarter.
Okay. And that is the end of our treatment plant tour. We've showed you guys the headworks and the screw press. We've showed you the equalization basin, the activated sludge basins, the microfiltration unit, the MBR unit, the activated sludge dewatering system, and now the final part of the piece of the process is disposal, and that's what we have here. So we hope you guys enjoyed our virtual tour, and if you have any questions or comments, we will be involved in the town hall, so you guys can ask us some questions.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, that was awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that and turn it over to the audience to ask questions. Again, we have Billy Fender, the operator there at Smith River, and we have Ronald Sundberg here. We also have our the engineer Dave Coleman from Belgian Race. Feel free to unmute yourself, or you can type your questions into the chat box, and I'll be keeping an eye on that. I'll give it a second here to open up the room to questions. And if you don't have any, I've got some planned. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and start with, we heard the word BOD. Billy, do you mind letting us know what BOD and MLSS stands for?
Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
So the MLSS is, and the MLVSS is suspended solids. It shows how much particulates are in the water. It says how much soluble solids that needs to come out. We do that monthly. BOD is, Ron, you gotta help out a little bit here. See what
Oh, you're doing great, Billy. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, I would say BOD is your biochemical oxygen demand. It's how much of your influent is coming in that's demanding oxygen. It needs oxygen to kind of as part of the treatment process. And your MLSS is that's your mixed liquor suspended solids. Basically, this total suspended solids in your activated sludge basins. We have to really pay attention to your to the amount of MLSS in those basins to make sure that our food to microorganisms ratios are right. I like to think of it as like a your community you want to be able to provide enough food for your community so they could thrive. And so that's kind of how your food to microorganisms, as at a community level, you would describe it, I guess. Does that help out?
Yes, it does. Thank you. And we do have a question coming in. I'm going to go ahead and kick this one to Billy. Billy, are you a full-time employee? And
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I am full-time. We have two other operators as well that run full-time. We just run one shift, 8-hour shifts. If something happens, we'll check the SCADA. If we can repair it or fix it just through the computer screen on our phone, then we will. If not, then we can go down and work on stuff. But right now, we can just run off on one shift throughout the day.
Okay, thank you. And also, I'm assuming that that the CSD would also be they are responsible for employing someone who is qualified to operate at treatment levels for their particular system.
Kim,
yes.
This is Ron. I think a fair question to ask Billy is how many maybe hours a day does he spend working on the wastewater treatment plant? Because Billy has other job duties. They have a surface water treatment plant for drinking water treatment plant that he also operates.
Okay,
so
that was that. I had that as my next question.
Oh.
Perfect timing. Nice segue, Ron. Billy.
Yes. So on an average day, I think I would be there like 3 hours ish. I go back there off and on. I have an office there. So I go back and I check emails and make sure the plant's running. It's really on its own majority of the time. The waste removal is what is more hands-on with the corkscrew. That takes more hands-on, but the basic, doing our daily samples, our daily readings, I would say about 3 hours a day. That would be hands-on at the wastewater plant.
All right, thank you. I'm going to skip on over to Dave Coleman to answer this next question since he is an engineer. Tommy is wondering that if everything goes smooth, when do you believe that they'd start working on the project?
Hello, everybody. This is Dave. So that's a pretty difficult question. There's several steps that need to be taken by the community and the state and consultants to get the project implemented. So we're probably several years away from the project to be completed. We have another year of planning and funding, and then a year of final design, and then a year of getting construction contracts in order and getting notice proceeds made for that construction. So I'd say it's probably at least 3 years before we are in construction.
Okay, thank you. All right, I am going to send this one over to either Billy or Ron. What kind of PPE do employees utilize, and are there hazardous materials?
Billy, you want to answer that question, or I could.
Yeah, there's not. We use gloves and eyewear, but the really only thing that we use, like when we clean the trains with the membranes, you got to do like a chemical bath. That's just with chlorinated bleach. So that's that's not that hazardous. You just got to watch your clothes and make sure you have your eyewear on, your gloves on. The other PPE stuff, that's pretty much what we mainly use.
Okay, thank you. And then I see a question in the chat box for Dave. But before I turn that over to you, Dave, I'm just going to let everyone know we had this plan till 6:30. It's getting close to that time. If you have time to stay, please do. We will go ahead and stay until everyone's questions are answered. So don't feel like we're going to do a hard shut off at 6:30. And I appreciate everybody's time. If you cannot stay, I understand. That goes for you too, Billy and Ron.
Okay, so I do see the question there. What are
Yeah.
the similarities and differences between the project that's featured in the video and what we are planning? So yeah, I think there's several things that are slightly different. One is the size. I believe Billy indicated that that plant was processing about 36,000 gallons per day. We're estimating closer to 60,000 gallons per day for the Boonville facility. So it'll be roughly not quite twice as big. Now, keep in mind that the technology would be the same, and the size of the equipment would be the same, except for maybe the volume of the treatment tank itself. Another big difference would be they featured in the beginning of the video a screw type conveyor screening device. With the system, the collection system that we're proposing for Boonville, which would be a individual grinder pumps for each property, there would be less of a need for screening at the plant. So we wouldn't have that type of apparatus at the head of the plant. Another difference I noticed is that they are dewatering the solids at Smith River directly. We weren't necessarily planning that, although we were planning on having liquid removal at the facility. And one reason we were doing that is just to further minimize potential odor impacts with sludge processing. But depending on the location of the treatment facility relative to residential areas, that might be something that would be considered during planning and design, because if we can dewater the biosolids on site, we can lessen, and with the project funding that we're looking at here, it's for the community, you'd be better off to have additional infrastructure put in terms of capital costs to minimize operating costs later. So that was another difference. I think those are the major differences. I didn't see like an overall view of the facility in the video, because they were just, the 4 or 5 camera shots that were done. There wasn't an overall overview. So I'm not sure what the difference would be in that respect.
All right, thank you, Dave. And we had one, yes, I will mention YouTube. I just had one more question about how the treated water is injected into the field. And Billy or Ron or Dave, I'm not sure which one of you would like to take that. There was also a question about dewatering and going to the landfill and alternatives. Let me go ahead and send over the injection field to Dave.
Sure. So the treated water is pumped into an underground disposal field. There's a system of pipes and or chambers that would receive that pumped water and then allow the water to be soaked into the soil interface. I'm not sure exactly how they're doing that at Smith River, but I would assume it's very similar to what other facilities have been doing.
Yes. Yes. We pump it about 2.5 miles up to our site, which is like a 30-acre plot. It's kind of just like a leach field. It's those 3 site wells, those were the testing sites, but we have like additional outlets that leach connections.
Okay, thank you. And then let's see, dewatering. Does hard waste have to go to landfill? Are there alternatives?
Yeah, and Billy may have something to add to that, but yeah, that's a very good question. It doesn't have to go to a landfill. It depends on the type of treatment that those solids go through. If they become Class A biosolids, then they can be land applied or some other kind of beneficial use. Class B solids, which I think is what's being done at Smith River, and what we would be proposing, is a much easier technology to do. Those can go to landfill most likely. There are companies that will take Class B biosolids and then further process them for beneficial reuse. But most of the time, this would go to landfill. And the scale of both Smith River and this facility for Boonville that we're considering are fairly small, so that, going to in some kind of beneficial reuse, you'd probably be spending a lot of money on regulatory compliance. That's just not worth it. So putting that small amount of solids in a landfill would be the least expensive, most likely.
All right, thank you, Dave. So I don't see any other questions out there in the chat. I want to say thank you so much to Billy and to Ron and to Dave for being here this evening and doing the tour. We have one more question. I do want to say though, before we go, we'll have your question answered. But if you do have any further questions after this, feel free to reach out to my email, and I'll make sure to get those questions answered for you. I will forward them to our experts here and get an answer for you. And also, I will be providing a link to this session to the CSD, so that they can post that on their website through YouTube, so you guys can, if there is anybody in the community that would like to watch it at a later time. So before we go, let's see the approximate operating cost for Smith River system, and is it a reasonable estimate? So Billy, I'll let you take the first part of that question, and Dave the second part.
I am not fully aware how much the operating cost is. I can research that tomorrow and talk with some people and get back.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
And as far as scaling that up for the size for Boonville from that, it's probably not a whole lot of scale up. Some of the costs, most of the costs are fairly fixed in terms, like especially labor. The labor to operate a 36,000 gallon facility and a 60,000 gallon facility is basically the same, the labor cost, the operator cost. The other big cost would be the biosolids disposal, like I was talking about before. That could be another big chunk of the cost. And other regulatory costs would be the other big category. The things that are variable that depend on the flow rate, like chemicals and electricity, are really very small components of the cost. So labor and biosolids are probably the two biggest things. Yeah, our biosolids removal is about an average about $100 or less per week. It's about 2,000 pounds, maybe a little bit more of that waste going to landfill. So, times that by 52, or, it's a little over 5,000 a year, roughly, just for waste removal for that, which would be way more for us if we kept going with Roto-Rooter. Yeah, everything else is pretty minimal, just operator and waste.
Okay, thank you, Billy and Dave. And then we have one last question here. Would the large leach field drain into the Anderson Creek Navarro watershed? And will the cost of running the system be part of a monthly fee to the homeowners? And I believe that that question on the rate will be decided during the rate study process, and then the community will have an opportunity to decide if that is a reasonable rate for them, and if that passes the Proposition 218 hearing. So there would be a fee for that, but that's still being worked out. And then the large leach field drain into Anderson Creek Navarro watershed. Dave.
So the water that's discharged to the underground disposal field does filter through the soil, and ultimately does go to groundwater. So in with respect to the groundwater is part of the watershed, the answer is yes. Ultimately, it does go into the watershed. And let me address the other question too. Yeah, the cost of running the system is going to have to be paid for by the collective users of the system. There's not, really any major programs to subsidize that. So that's the one thing we want to try to come up with, a system that is as least costly to operate as possible, so that the monthly fees can be held down as much as possible.
All right, thank you. So ongoing money from the state to maintain equipment and replacement. I know that part of a rate study is typically a capital improvement planning. So that's a big part of that. And as we know, grants and funding from the state or federal is it's never guaranteed. And so I think that might be an unknown question, but Dave, do you have an answer for that?
Like I mentioned a moment ago, I'm not aware of ongoing programs to maintain equipment and replace equipment. Now, that's not to say that, at some point in the future, when the facility needs an upgrade, that there wouldn't be state or federal or local funding for that kind of capital improvements that would refresh that equipment in some way. So I think that sometimes that's done, but I'm not aware of an ongoing program to maintain and replace equipment.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. I really want to say again a big thank you to Billy and Ron and to Dave, and also to the Anderson Valley CSD and to the state for funding this wonderful tour of the Smith River plant. I really appreciate it. We probably got more attendees than we would be able to facilitate in person. So really wonderful, you guys. I can't say thank you enough to everyone, and to everyone that's here with us tonight. Thank you for joining us, and please be on the lookout and come to those water meetings. Thank you, everyone. You have a good night. And I will work on providing you that link for the video.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. And if there are any more technical questions that do come up, please reach out to myself and Billy, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
I will. Thank you so much. And I appreciate Billy following up with the operating costs for Smith River. We'll go ahead and get that out to everyone. So thank you so much. Really big, huge. I'm jazz handing for you and Billy right now. A round of applause. Thank you so much. It was awesome. All right, I am going to go ahead and end this for everyone. So have a good evening. Thank you for joining.